The Pacific Coast Highway, one of America's best scenic highways, traveling up the coast from San Diego to Seattle, with hundreds of points of interest and interesting destinations across its length. Specifically in California, the highway has become a must-see gem along the mountainous coastline, with its winding path and steep cliffs. But this hasn't come without challenges. Routing a popular road along a rocky coastline in a geologically unstable region has resulted in numerous dangerous situations. So today I wanted to look at the highway within the state to explain what's happening and the dangerous truth about the Pacific Coast Highway's future in California. Before we get into that though, make sure you do subscribe to the channel. We make geography content like this every weekend, and I'm trying to get to my lifelong goal of 100,000 subscribers this year. So I'd appreciate it if you would click the button below to subscribe. It's easy for you and really helpful for me. Thank you. So California Highway 1 is also known as the Pacific Coast Highway in the state. It was built in the early 1900s because of important figures which were eager to connect communities north of the Los Angeles metropolitan area. Some portions were completed by 1913, and they continued construction northward between 1920 and 1940, using convict labor for construction purposes. The route required several bridges, a tunnel, and a winding route that was quite difficult to build, especially in certain portions south of San Francisco. Eventually, the road was turned from many different connecting routes into the singular California Highway 1, which would be known as the Pacific Coast Highway. This name and routing gained worldwide recognition, becoming one of the most notable and iconic stretches of highway in the world and likely the most known in the nation. Present day, the road handles as many as 47,000 vehicles per day, with the tourism industry dominating the area as people take the 2-day trip up the coastline and mark it off their bucket list. The road begins in Orange County on the south end of the Los Angeles metro, moving up the coast through Newport Beach, Huntington Beach, and Long Beach. In this area, it serves as more of an arterial route than a scenic route, but once it passes Santa Monica, this changes. The highway passes Malibu and follows the coast, then going through Oxnard and Ventura, before continuing through populated areas like Santa Barbara. The next 100 miles are off the coast, but past Morro Bay, it gets into its most popular stretch. The Big Sur stretch of the PCH is located between Morro Bay and Monterey, where the highway hugs the coastal cliffs with a thin, winding route. There are countless beaches, resorts, viewpoints, hikes, and areas for recreation, attracting people to the area. After Monterey and Santa Cruz, it continues up the coast into San Francisco, and after the Golden Gate Bridge, it gets right back into its scenic route. These areas are less populated and less popular, but it passes small towns in a now wet, forested environment, which leads up to Fort Bragg before turning inland and meeting US 101, where it then ends. Now looking at that route, there's one major area that it feels like the whole highway centers around, and it's also the most problematic portion. This is the Big Sur region. So as I mentioned before, this area between Morro Bay and Monterey is the most popular stretch, with many of the most popular views and most iconic scenery, but it also deals with the most challenges, coming in the form of unstable geology that results in frequent mudslides. In other words, this coastline is crumbling. Currently, a 6.8 mile segment of Highway 1 around 2 miles north of Lucia is closed. This is caused by Regent's Slide, a mudslide that destroyed this stretch of roadway. It occurred on February 9th, 2024, and it won't open until some point in 2025. This partially overlaps with the closure caused by Paul's Slide just south of there, where a 4.3 mile stretch was closed from January 2023 to June 2024. In March 2024, a 1.4 mile segment north of Rocky Creek Bridge was closed, and continuing into past years, these mudslides are quite frequent. There are 1,500 mapped landslides, and each of these take money to repair. For example, the Mud Creek landslide in 2017, the largest on record, cost $53 million to repair. This adds up for the California DOT, making the maintenance of the Pacific Coast Highway very difficult and costly. Now, why does this happen? Well, that gets us into the geology of the country and the area. So firstly, the area is almost entirely on the Sur-Nacimiento Fault, meaning it's basically right on the tectonic boundary between the Pacific Plate and the North American Plate, dividing things and causing instability. To further this idea, the coastline is made up of rocks including granite and melange. This melange, which dominates the area, is a sheared rock made of siltstone and shale. In other words, it's almost cracked up and it's not very stable, being prone to mudslides. So the area is expensive for the state, and it's always closed in different areas, being very difficult to maintain. So why doesn't California simply count their losses and abandon it instead of spending millions every year on repairs? Well, that's where you have to think about the unincorporated community of Big Sur Village. This village of around 2,000 residents is located directly on this part of the highway, with zero connections from other roads. It's run by the tourism industry of the PCH, so things have been very complicated. Every time the road is closed in either direction, the traffic on this section goes down significantly, stunting Big Sur's economy. Businesses in the area are forced to lay off workers, and residents can be put in very difficult situations. And in the event that the highway is closed on either side of the community, it loses not only its entire economy, but also any connection to the outside world. As well as this, the highway is extremely culturally important to the state, and it brings economy in the form of tourism. Simply getting rid of the most popular portion would come with a lot of backlash from people who have childhood memories on the road, people who run businesses on the road, and people who don't want to see a vital part of this highway removed. So putting that together with the community of Big Sur, removing or abandoning this stretch of the Pacific Coast Highway is simply not an option, putting California in an almost helpless situation. So what do they do? Is there a way the state can fix this problem? Well, not really. The area was negatively affected by the building of the highway, with the natural environment being disrupted by the construction process. This human impact set them up for disaster, and as long as weather patterns continue, mudslides will form and the area will be impacted by expensive repairs. You could say that they could build tunnels in the most at-risk sections, and that's a valid idea. California Highway 1 has a tunnel at Gaviota Pass that was built in 1952. But that passes through mountains and wasn't along the coast, meaning it was significantly easier and more justified. Tunnels in the Big Sur area would cost hundreds of millions of dollars, and they would have very serious environmental impacts and would ruin the scenery in those sections. It's very unlikely they would get approval on such an idea. So the state is then back to square one. The Pacific Coast Highway is famous across the country and the world, as I stated before. It can't just be abandoned or removed. But things continue to get worse and more expensive. And even with new technology that is surely used to design with mudslides in mind, this is still going to be a problem we will see regularly. Thanks for watching. Thank you to the members this week: Big Pasty, Resident Contrarian, Hazev the Wolf, Bunny, Honoshuken, Brock Sanders, Stephen Priestman, SB Wilder, Florida Jake, Sir JC17, Alex Williams, Makita Martinoff, Kurt Ainsley, Jerome McCall, KMS162, JL, Bryson, Rosebud 4, Darkbird, Wolflink73, Snyderschwein, Benjamin Whitings, and Ryan Devins. I appreciate you all so much. You're really helping out the channel, especially all the new members. I promise all of this money goes to a good cause. It's just going straight in my savings. So if you want to become a member, the link is down in the description below. Thank you.